The Alexandrian Lighthouse, sometimes known as the Alexandrian Pharos (FRS), Ancient Greek, TES Contemporary Koine Greek pronunciation, Hopor.Ros.Ts.Lek, Sandris, is a Toios lighthouse built by ancient Egypt, during the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus 280–247 BC. Its height is estimated to be at least 100 meters (330 feet). One of the seven wonders of the ancient world, for centuries it was one of the tallest man-made structures in the world. The lighthouse was badly damaged by three earthquakes between 956 and 1323 AD and became an abandoned ruin. It is the third longest surviving ancient marvel, after the mausoleum at Halicarnassus and the extant Great Pyramid of Giza, surviving in part until 1480, when the last stone remains were used to build the citadel of Qaitbay on the site. In 1994, a team of French archaeologists plunged into the waters of the eastern harbour of Alexandria and found several remains of the lighthouse on the seabed. In 2016, the Ministry of Antiquities in Egypt had plans to turn the submerged ruins of ancient Alexandria, including the Pharos ruins, into an underwater museum. Brief history. Pharos is a small island located on the western edge of the Nile Delta. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria on the isthmus opposite Pharos. Alexandria and Pharos were then connected by a mole stretching over 1,200 meters (0.75 miles) called the Heptastadion, 7 stadia. A stadium is a Greek unit of length measuring about 180 meters. The etymology of Pharos is uncertain, but probably comes from pharaoh, which originally meant big house. The word became common in modern Greek, pharos, and was loaned into Spanish, pharaoh. The east side of the mole became the Great Harbor, now an open bay. To the west lies the port of Eunostos, with the deep basin of Kibitos now greatly enlarged to form the modern port. The current development of the city that lies between the present-day Grand Square and the modern Ras El Tin area is built on a mud that gradually widens and obliterates this mole. Cape Ras El Tin, where the Ras El Tin Palace was built in the 19th century, represents all that remains of the island of Pharos, the site of the lighthouse at its eastern point having been weathered by the sea. Construction. This lighthouse was built in the 3rd century BC. After Alexander the Great's death, the first Ptolemy I Soter, declared himself king in 305 BCE, and commissioned its construction shortly thereafter. The building was completed during the reign of his son, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, and took 12 years to complete at a total cost of 800 talents of silver. Light is generated by the furnace at the top, and the tower is said to be built mostly of solid blocks of limestone and granite. In his encyclopedic manuscript Geographica, Strabo, who visited Alexandria in the late 1st century BCE, reports that Sostratus of Cnidus had dedications to the Savior God inscribed in metallic letters on the lighthouse. Writing in the 1st century CE, Pliny the Elder states in his Natural History that Sostratus was the architect, although this conclusion is disputed. In his 2nd century AD educational treatise How to Write History, Lucian claims that Sostratus hid his name under the plaster bearing Ptolemy's name, so that when the plaster finally fell, Sostratus' name would be visible on the stone. The sandstone and limestone blocks used in building the lighthouse have been scientifically analyzed to determine where they came from, with mineralogy and chemical analysis pointing to the Wadi Hammamat mine, which lies in the desert to the east of Alexandria. Height. The Arabic description of the lighthouse is consistent even though it underwent some repairs after the damage from the earthquake. The given heights vary only 15% from 103 to 118 meters (338 to 387 feet) on a square base measuring 30 by 30 meters (98 by 98 feet). The geographer al-Idrisi visited the lighthouse in 1154 and noted an opening in the wall along a rectangular axis with lead used as infill material between the masonry blocks at the base. He calculated the total height of the lighthouse to be 300 dira rashashal, 162 meters. The most complete description of the lighthouse comes from the Arab traveler Abu Hagig Yusuf ibn Muhammad el-Balawi el-Andalusi, who visited Alexandria in 1166 CE. Balawi provides a description and measurements of the interior of the lighthouse's rectangular axis. The inner path is described as being paved with masonry at 7 sheba, 189 centimeters, 6.2 feet, which is noted to allow 2 horsemen to pass at once. Rotating clockwise, the ramp had 4 floors with 18, 14, and 17 rooms on the second, third, and fourth floors respectively. Balawi calculated the base of the lighthouse to be 45 bar 30 meters, 100 feet on each side with connecting roads 600 dira 300 meters, 984 feet long and 20 dira 10 meters, 32 feet. The octagonal section is 24 bar 16.4 meters, 54 feet wide, and the cylindrical section's diameter is 12.73 bar 8.7 meters, 28.5 feet. The apex of the lighthouse oratorium measures 6.4 bar 4.3 meters 20.9 feet in diameter. Final records of the lighthouse after its destruction by the 1303 Crete earthquake include Ibn Battuta, a Moroccan scholar and explorer, who passed through Alexandria in 1326 and 1349. Battuta notes that the condition of the lighthouse ruins was visible only by the square tower and driveway. He declared the tower to be 140 sheba, 30.8 meters, 101 feet on both sides. Battuta detailed Sultan Nazir Muhammad's plans to build a new lighthouse near the site of the lighthouse collapse, but this was not fulfilled after the Sultan's death in 1341. 4. Destruction. The lighthouse was partially fractured and damaged by earthquakes in 796 and 951, followed by structural collapse in the earthquakes of 956, and then again in 1303 and 1323. The earthquakes propagated from 2 well-known tectonic boundaries, the African Arabic and Red Sea zones. Rifts, 350 and 520 kilometers from the lighthouse site, respectively. Documentation shows the 956 earthquake to be the first to cause a structural collapse in the top 20+ meters of construction. Repairs documented after the 956 earthquake included the installation of an Islamic-style dome after the collapse of the statue that had previously been atop the monument. The most destructive earthquake in 1303 was estimated to be of magnitude 8+, originating from the Greek island of Crete, 280 to 350 km from Alexandria. Eventually, the stubby remains disappeared in 1480, when the then Sultan of Egypt, Katebe, built a medieval fortification on the larger platform of the lighthouse site using some of the fallen stones. 5. Research by experts. Gaston Jondat made in 1916 the first detailed description of the sunken ruins of the old port of Alexandria. He was followed by Raymond Weil in the same year, and by Sir Leopold Halliday Saville in 1940. In 1968, the lighthouse was rediscovered. UNESCO sponsored an expedition to send a team of marine archaeologists, led by Honor Frost, to the site. He confirmed the existence of the ruins that represented part of the lighthouse. Due to the lack of specialized archaeologists and the area being a military zone, exploration was postponed. A team of French archaeologists led by Jean-Yves Emperor recovered the lighthouse's physical remains in late 1994 on the floor of Alexandria's East Harbor. He worked with cinematographer Asma El-Bakri, who used a 35mm camera to capture the first underwater images of the collapsed columns and statues. Emperor's most significant finds consist of a 49 to 60-ton granite block often broken into sections, 30 sphinxes, 5 obelisks, and columns with carvings from Ramses II, 1279–1213 BC. In the early 1990s, underwater archaeologist Frank Goddio began exploring across the harbor where the Emperor's team worked. Subsequent satellite and sonar imaging have revealed the remains of additional piers, houses and temples that have all fallen into the Mediterranean Sea as a result of earthquakes and other natural disasters. It is possible to go diving and see the ruins. The Secretariat of the UNESCO Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage is currently working with the Egyptian government on an initiative to add Alexandria Bay, including the remains of the lighthouse, to the World Heritage List of submerged cultural sites. That's 5 brief history of lighthouses quoted from wikipedia.com. Hope it's useful. Thank you.